Well, it's court TV again. They never cease to amaze me. I always bring in these legal experts who have in-depth knowledge of the law when it comes to analyzing the Kyle Rittenhouse saga. Let's see how they do.
It's the most divisive case I've ever covered, ever. There are two sides looking at this thing from a political point of view. It breaks down exactly that way, and no one's budging in this one. Let's bring back in the think tank.
Okay, so what we're going to do is bring in a whole bunch of political people here, and they're all going to have very similar political bents, and none of them are going to be pro-Kyle.
Self-defense is going to be the defense here. Two of the three shootings are clear on video. Bernarda, do you see self-defense? He's getting hit in the head with a skateboard. He got punched in the head by somebody else. Someone else who got shot brandishes a pistol and points it at him. Is this self-defense, at least for those two? The first we don't see.
Vinny, I'm not a fan of this case. But unfortunately, I do see that justification, self-defense is going.
Okay, so Kyle's actions may be justified according to self-defense. And what does she say? Unfortunately. Let that soak in.
Going to be a viable defense for Rittenhouse, even though he's the one who went down to Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Went up to Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Armed with a firearm, armed with an assault rifle, armed with a rifle that was almost half the size of his body, which is crazy to me. But unfortunately, I see that he does have a chance of skating on these charges.
Skating on these charges. In other words, he may have acted in self-defense to protect his life, and if he gets off, he's skated. And by the way, what is this rifle half his body size? You see, she's out of New York City, all right? And to her, the idea of a kid walking around with a rifle is just anathema. She cannot visualize that because she doesn't see it every day. She's not from a rural area. But I'm just floored by the whole notion that if I'm walking around and I defend myself legally from an attack and I'm able to actually go into a court and defend myself, she would consider that unfortunate. Now, another question you would have is, what if she was on the jury? I can tell you what it would be like if she was on the jury. She would explain, yes, it was self-defense from a legal standpoint. Yes, but that's unfortunate, so guilty. She would convict him.
Randy, what do you see when you see that video?
I agree with Bernarda. You know, that charge, the self-defense defense may work. You know, on the civil side, right, if they get sued for civil, we're going to look at foreseeability. You put on a gun, you go down to an environment like that, were your actions foreseeably going to end up in something like this? There may be a different result on the civil side, but on the
Let's see here. Everybody else was carrying a weapon that night, but only he had to actually use it. So how foreseeable was it when nobody else had that problem?
criminal side, you know, that one instance, was he defending himself? That's a fact question for a jury, and it's certainly a defensible argument. They're going to make the argument. Who knows if it's going to work, but I agree with Bernarda.
Now, keep in mind, this guy was on court TV some time ago claiming that Kyle was guilty, and all of a sudden, he's starting to change his tune now. However, keep in mind also, this man is a family law attorney. He has no experience in criminal defense. He has no experience in Wisconsin. I think he's out of Florida. But whatever the case, he is not an expert in Wisconsin self-defense. None of these people are.
Ian, would you, I mean, if you were defending, I'm not saying you would defend him, but if you were defending Kyle Rittenhouse.
Oh, we wouldn't want to defend Kyle.
Would you rely solely on the video, or do you think he needs to supplement the video and tell this jury what he was doing and why he was doing it?
He may need to, because as Bernarda and Randy pointed out, he went to the conflict, and that usually stops the claim of self-defense right there in its tracks.
Nobody believes that except you. Keep in mind, this is a law professor out of Ohio, and you might think, well, Ohio's very rural. They're going to have very liberal laws when it comes to self-defense. And by liberal, I don't mean politically liberal. I'm talking about very loose, right? They're going to be on the side of this person in self-defense. false. In fact, up until 2019, Ohio was the last state in the union that required those who claimed self-defense to prove it in court. All 49 other states stated that it was the prosecutor's job to prove it was not. Only Ohio required the accused to prove that he acted in self-defense. Ohio is definitely not pro-self-defense. Again, why can't you come up with a Wisconsin lawyer? There are plenty of Wisconsin lawyers who specialize in criminal defense. Why can't they be on this show? Instead, you get these three clowns. The moderator actually seems like a pretty cool guy. The rest of them, bah.
So what was going on in his mind at that moment is going to be important, although the burden obviously falls on the state. This is going to be one of those game time calls, Vinny, where we're going to have to see how the evidence goes in. You're going to prep your client right as trial starts, gauge whether or not he's going to do a good job. Keep doing it nightly as the case progresses based upon the evidence, and you're going to make that call right at that moment. If you don't put him on, you think that the case is going well enough. If you do put him on, that's a sign that the defense thinks the case is not going the way they want, and they're going to have to put him on. They do not want to put him on. As a defense lawyer, I would not want to put him on unless I had to.
Oh, really? Wow. You're a real expert. It's so good that they brought you in. Anybody at the local bus stop could have offered that. Oh, yeah, if the trial's not going well, they'll have to put him on the stand. If not, they don't want him on the stand. Yeah, no kidding. Isn't that about always the case? Doesn't just about everybody know that already?
Yeah, to me, this trial, jury selection is crucial. And I don't know if there's anyone who watches the video and knows the story that doesn't have a strong opinion about it. I don't know if there are those people who are somewhere in the middle. But we'll find out. We will find out. This one is on schedule for this year. We've got a motion hearing coming up on September 17th. Trial date November 1. Motion September 17. Trial date November 1. Of course, your front row seat to justice will be on it.
Okay, he's right. Jury selection's everything. But keep in mind, the prosecutor needs to find 12 people that will unanimously declare Kyle guilty. Good luck. This is Wisconsin. It's mostly rural, and the town has been victimized by the very people that Kyle shot in self-defense. And you'll notice something. These three lawyers, all of them agree that self-defense is looking mighty good here. And these three lawyers don't want to say that. Court TV didn't bring in like real conservative lawyers here. It brought in lawyers that it thinks it can rely on to back up the narrative. Well, guess what? They're weakening. 6 months ago, you would have got a completely different message from them. Now, what are you getting? Well, it kind of does look like self-defense. By November, forget it. Binger, you need to get out of this really quickly here. You're not going to win this. Your chances of getting all 12 people on a jury to say guilty to send a kid to 60 years or even longer for defending their community. Good luck.